think it's interesting that that you're concerned to want to know how to come in and help the black community. I think you have enough issues in your community that you need to turn your attention to yours. And I think that will help in terms of how we respond to one another. My interest is in helping what's going on in the black community. And I think there's some issues in the white community that only white people can deal with. And I would say turn your attention inward. And if you fix those problems in there, it may facilitate fixing problems in mine. So that's just in addition to what Eugene is saying. So that's what I want to add to that.
Can you name a few? Or go down your top three?
Well, I don't want to do that, but what I want to do is somehow this film ought to generate in us a question. What's going on in our culture? Why is this happening? And it seems that the black community is a target. Where we are as a community is not where we are because this is where we want to be, but rather there has been a deliberate attempt on the part of something or someone to use what is happening in our community to produce a result that they want. And therein, I believe, is a challenge of all Americans, is to find out why is this happening to us as a nation. We're divided, and this division is going in a direction, and it's going towards the undermining of our Constitution and our liberties and the flipping of our nation into a socialistic paradigm. So whatever is happening in the black community may be that it is deliberately being done by whomever to accomplish a goal where we're headed at this time. I submit to you that it was Saul Alinsky who said this, that we will use the poor as a battering ram against the system. So what you see is an effort on the part of the socialist and the Maoist and the Marxist to accomplish their end. We as a community are just an instrument in their hand to accomplish that. They have taken legitimate concerns in our community and have toxified them and are using them to foster a division among us. Police brutality was and is a concern in our community, but they have toxified it. When one goes back and studies the history of our community coming up out of the 40s and the 50s, there's always been tension between the police and our community. It's real. But they have toxified it and turned it against the system, against America, in order to facilitate the division. And we need to be aware of that. We need to recognize what's happening. In addition to that, men and women, America is at the point where it could potentially collapse. And I think that's why many of you are here today, because you sense that and you're aware of the fact that this is unusual. This is unlike any other time in the history of our nation. And I submit to you, what is happening has happened gradually and incrementally. It's been coming at us for a very long time, but it has manifested itself in what we're experiencing right now. It was Antonio Gramsci in 1929 in the Frankfurt School of Germany who asked the question, their philosophers, why didn't the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia succeed or influence revolution in Western Europe? And the answer was this: because of the institutions that were undergirded by the Judeo-Christian ethic. Amen. We need to infiltrate the institution and we need to get rid of the Christian influence, and then we can flip the nation. And so they've been coming at it this way, and the socialist says, how can we best do that? And they say, go through the black community, and we can do it. Because we can take them and use them as a hammer. Legitimate concerns, racism and the segregation and all that stuff. They were able to use it against the system. And now what do we have today? Every one of the 7 institutions that influence America today have flipped. Every one of them. major media, the government, academia, business, the family, arts, and believe it or not, the church are all playing political correctness, which is ultimately cultural Marxism. And if we don't begin to recognize that, looking at some of these sociological issues, yeah, there are sociological issues that we're talking about and dealing with here with Uncle Tom, but there's a greater issue here. The issue is that there is a spiritual effort to flip this nation on the part of a godless group of people who hate God and who are looking to destroy Christianity. They're burning Bibles in the streets right now because our culture has turned on God. And until we recognize that, and particularly the majority community, you need to recognize it because you can stop it, but you haven't.
Amen.
Forgive me.